week, Miami welcomes a well-known board-certified internist, addiction medicine specialist, and media personality who's known for mixing his medical practices with many forms of media. Our guest had his own hit reality TV series on VH1, hosts the #1 health podcast available on iTunes, and is the author of the New York Times bestsellers The Mirror Effect, How Celebrity Narcissism is Seducing America, and Cracked, Putting Broken Lives Together Again. Miami Television News would like to welcome Drew Pinsky into our studio. So welcome.
Appreciate it. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for coming in. Welcome to Oxford in the snowstorm. You made it through.
Do you have anything to do with that?
No, I don't. I think you brought it.
The weather.
I think you brought it. But what I just read was just a very small fraction of your accomplishments. You're also assistant clinical professor of psychiatry at the Keck's USC School of Medicine, host of radio show Loveline for 25 years
35 years.
35 years
it's
now.
Insanity.
And then a fellow with the American College of Physicians. So tonight you're giving a lecture at Miami's campus. Addictions can happen to you.
Yep.
So what do you hope the audience leaves with after this talk, and what kind of topics are you going to be talking about?
You know, there's about 4 hours of material in my head, and a lot of it would be boring for young people. So I really want to talk about whatever the audience wants to talk about. I mean, I'm going to sort of let the audience guide where we go. I've got some ideas about stuff I'd like them to walk away with, including an understanding that it can happen to them. Not the least of which, aside from addiction, alcoholism, and sort of dependency issues, bad things can happen to you because of binge using also. And that's on college campuses across the country. That's a major, major issue. And you know, and not every campus has a green beer day. I'm just saying, not everybody has got what's the bar, the Woods or whatever, the new bar. And I know about all these places. I've been watching you guys, and just, you know, I want you to think about what you're doing when you go out and do these things. That's all. I think more than anything else, I hope to challenge people to use their heads and think about things.
So is there going to be an open-ended?
There will be a lot of that.
Okay, so for the audience to get involved.
Yes, as much as possible. That's I'm boring otherwise, trust me. Okay,
so going into your career a little bit, what's your response to when critics kind of call you maybe a television doctor, maybe you focus more on the fame, working for fame rather than patients? What's your response to that?
I don't, if somebody thinks that, there's nothing really I can do to dissuade them from those kinds of thoughts. I practiced medicine since 1984. I've crammed 3 careers into one. I still do a lot of lecturing. I do some clinical work where it's required. Media is something I did in my sort of free time. You know, I never did it as a primary thing, ever. In fact, like Loveline on MTV, I was a severe workaholic practicing medicine. I would work 110, 120 hours a week routinely. And when Loveline on MTV came around, I said, well, you can do Friday afternoons and Saturday afternoons, and that's it. If you can't fit it in there, I can't do this. And Loveline was something, the radio show I did 10 to midnight after my day was done. I would just run over there and do that. And it was always just designed to help. I mean, if you know, I have the great privilege of just doing media with one intention, was to help, do something, do good, change things in a positive way. If people are going to, if that's going to be interpreted negatively, it's not something I can, it's not an opinion I can probably change.
And adding media
But let me say something.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But when you're in the media to do something good and you get all the negative garbage that comes back on social media, it's painful, make no mistake about it. I have a pretty thick skin, but it still hurts. When you're out there trying to do good and you get negative back, it's painful.
Yeah. And, you know, adding that media component into your medical profession. Have you ever, there's this thing, you know, the topic of patient-doctor confidentiality. Have you ever had a situation that you think maybe is too personal for TV or for the media to be public streamed?
All the time. I mean, I don't discuss anything that meets HIPAA standard. The only time I participate in something that happens on television is when somebody signs off on it. Somebody wants to participate. Somebody asks me to do that with them. Otherwise, would never do that.
And I think there's a perception maybe of like reality TV as well.
You're talking about celebrity rehab.
Yeah, dramatizing.
Celebrity rehab takes literally months to consent people. It takes they have to talk to everybody to make sure they're clear what they're getting into. Most of them come on treatment, come into that show to get paid and be on TV. They don't want treatment. They actually, most of them want to screw with us. But because we are doing really intensive treatment, every single case they engaged, it was a crazy thing happened we could not have predicted. Not only did they engage, they started to value their treatment, and most of them started wanting to share their treatment and be an example, because they all needed it. They all were desperately in trouble with addiction, even though they may not have wanted help with it. Once you sort of showed them what could be done, they really valued it.
Okay, and what do you think the constraints maybe that the networks, or adding the media aspect into it, do they put constraints on you and how you do your job, or what you can say?
Absolutely not. In fact, they at the beginning, they started doing reality TV, and they would talk to the patients and like, did you know what Susie said about that? And I blew my lid. I said, look, these are sick people. Stay the hell away from them. Mm-hmm. And it got to the point at the end, the last group of seasons, like the last 3 or 4 seasons, I said, I will do these shows on one condition. No one looks me in the eye. No one speaks to me from the staff, from the production staff. Only I have my treatment staff. They're allowed to, of course, talk to me all they want. But if anybody so much as looks me in the eye, I swear to Christ, I'll walk off this set. You can ask me 5 questions. Doctor, how the patient doing? How long they be in the hospital? How much is this going to cost? What's the aftercare plan? And that's it. You ask one more question, I'm walking the hell off this set. So I had them pretty freaked out. So they were not anywhere near my patients or me. They were just there, flies on the wall, doing their thing. Now, they edit it. When they edit it, they can do whatever they want to it. So they put it together like a reality show. So what used to drive me crazy is you don't see much treatment. You don't see, like, all you see is a lot of the chaos and stuff. So, but that's reality television. That's the reality part.
So how is it when you have to watch it months later after it's all put together and you know what actually happened? You lived through it and you see.
I don't watch it.
You don't watch it at all?
I'm still busy with the patients. We treat them for a year afterwards.
Okay. And so you've been quoted saying that your target audience is the young people, this generation. And
that has been something I've been interested in since I got involved in media.
Why this generation? Why?
Not just any young people are really establishing the trajectories of their life. Some of it is when I was in college, when I was college age, I had panic and depression, and I was thoroughly mistreated. And it really just awfully, so the treatment was horrible in retrospect. And I just thought, even as a young physician, I thought, not even a young physician, even when I was sort of getting into training, like, that isn't right. There should be so I got interested in more specialized care for adolescents and young adults, and also in mental health particularly, because I went through it, man. I've been there.
All right, so we have an audience full of young journalists. And they have some questions for you. So if we can get a mic up to Grace, she's going to be asking.
Hi, Dr. Drew. What kind of advice would you give college students like us wanting to go into the media and
turn back? Turn back fast. It depends what you want to do and how badly you want to do it. Be prepared to go to small towns and do it there for a while. But if you like doing it, who cares? You'll have a good time. Try to come up. An intern of mine asked me this question the other day, and I thought, oh, what do I tell her? And I thought, if you can come up with some area of specialized training, if you have something unique to offer in terms of your expertise, I think that propels you in certain ways, and it helps you think of different opportunities that somebody who doesn't have a particular. I mean, it's easy to say be a meteorologist, or something, but you know what I mean. You can come up with some creative area that you'll find a way to use that expertise, I'm sure. That's it? There you go. Here's one in the background.
Hi, I'm Casey. I'm a senior journalism major. What advice would you give to universities in how they deal with kids who have alcohol, have problems with their intake of alcohol? Because right now all you really see is them getting reprimanded for their behavior. But what would you do? What would you tell them to do differently?
I've met with some of the resources here for treating, and I would certainly look at it as a treatment problem. And you're mandated to treatment here. I don't know if you know that or not, but you're required to do a certain amount of treatment. I would not look at it as a issue that requires punishment, though I would create consequences, and they would be graduated as a way of motivating somebody to engage in treatment and stay with it. The other thing is, I would really look at the social constructs that motivate alcohol use. Whether it's Greek life or bars or whatever it might be, I would get a good look at those and try to figure out a way to move things in a different direction. It feels like, I was at this campus 6 or 8 years ago. We had to figure out when I was last year. But it seems like it's more alcohol, binge alcohol, than even then. And that is going to hurt people eventually.
Hi, Dr. Drew. What was it like dealing with the big celebrity personalities, and how did that change your practice?
You mean on celebrity rehab?
Yeah.
I used to treat, well, how was it? They're a pain in the ass. But I used to treat celebrities. I ran a big treatment center in Los Angeles for a long time. And we would see celebrities. We would not seek them. I did not like to treat with celebrities. And the biggest problem with them was, they have to be treated just like everybody else. Humility is a part of the treatment process. And they always wanted special this and special that, and that was very frustrating. They also all wanted to go back to work right away. They make a lot of money for various people, so other people are motivated for them to go back to work. They like their work, they're gratified by it. Going back to work early was always the biggest problem, and there was almost no way to prevent it. Robert Downey Jr. is a great example of that. I mean, he kept going back and trying to work, and then he had to just disappear for 3 or 4 years. And he asked me once if he should ever work. And I didn't have an answer for him because I wasn't clear that he should, but he's obviously doing fine, and he's an amazing story. He's how a celebrity should approach their treatment. Dealing with groups of them, sometimes it was quite pleasant, sometimes it was problematic. I mean, I was telling somebody the story the other day when Dennis Rodman, I first started engaging with him, and I was working hard with him, and he said, hey man, we'll have a relationship, and we eventually did. We had a I had great affection for Dennis, but at that time it was like day one, group one, and he was just reading during group, and he wouldn't engage or anything. I go, dude, come on, let's go here. And he goes, hey, you got to understand something. If we're going to get along, you got to understand this one thing. The way the world works is this: there's God, and then there's professional athletes, and that's just the way it is. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be interesting. And it was, but he came around eventually, a little bit. He's still struggling, obviously.
So I have a quick question.
Yep.
What's in store for the future now? You just last month started the Dr. Drew Live Midday with Mike Catherwood.
Yep.
How's that going so far?
It's good. It's AM radio. It's different. It's interesting. Yeah. They're trying to sort of blow up the paradigm of talk. And I tend to get very boring very fast, so they usually throw in a nuttier guy with me and see if we can create something interesting. My job is always trying to be willing to go into entertaining vehicles. Like, that's sort of always been my model. I'll go into the vehicle provided that we can give good information and try to change the culture in a healthy way. But that's my job. That's what I got to figure out once I agree to get into these environments that are challenging.
All right, and for the future, what can we see?
I never know. The whole
any...
this has all been an if you had said I was going to be doing, when I started my career in medicine, if you had told me in 1984 that I was going to be doing this now, I would have thought you were completely. I wouldn't even know what you were talking about, frankly. And so it's always been sort of an exploration where I thought, oh, okay, I'll try that. It sounds interesting. Let's try this, and continue. Now it really was, frankly, 2 years ago when I was doing that daytime show called Life Changers that I really had to change my schedule practicing medicine. I just had very little time to see patients. And I had to really look in the mirror and go, maybe it's time. Maybe you've done enough media that you should focus on it, like really make it your priority, and maybe it's time for a second career. So the last couple of years, I've been putting my full focus into it, and I have no idea what's going to happen.
Well, it's been a very successful career so far. Dr. Drew Pinsky is a board-certified internist, addiction medicine specialist, and well-known for starring in his hit reality series on VH1, Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew. Thank you so much for coming in today. Thanks for tuning in to this special edition of Miami Television News. Make sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Miami TV News. I'm Kaitie Espeleta. Have a great week.